Welcome to Nascot Wood Junior School and this parents' induction meeting. We're really excited about welcoming your children in September. Usually this meeting will be done in the evening with all of you face to face with me, but obviously at the moment we can't do it in that way, so we thought a good way round would be to do this virtual induction meeting. And this will provide you with all the information that I would give you face to face. My name is Christina Singh. I'm head teacher here at Nascot Wood Junior School. It's been my privilege to be head here since 2013. Previously, I worked as an advisor for the local authority. I had a national role as well with the Down Syndrome Association, and I also served on a parliamentary committee advising the government on provision for children with complex needs, and that remains a passion of mine. By the end of this presentation, we hope that you will have some up-to-date information about the school and a greater knowledge of what our school is like. We're really proud of it, and we want to share with you that enthusiasm for the environment that your children will be coming into. And we also want you to have the opportunity to ask questions, and I'll tell you at the end how you can do that. Because obviously usually you'd be able to just think about your questions during the evening and ask them at the end. Now, before I start talking about the school more generally, I wanted to give you an idea about how we have been operating over the last few months during the pandemic. And I think that's really important because more than ever, I want you to feel safe and secure in sending your children to school. That's always important to us, but it's become even more important during these last few weeks and months. So I've called this slide Strategic Plan for Safe Schooling, because that is at the top of my priority. We have run the school since the 23rd of March for the children of key workers, and also a few weeks later for our Year 6 children. And one of the things that we work really hard on is about the children's arrival at school and departing from school. And we will be sending out really detailed information about how we have decided to operate that in September. The advantage for your children is that these processes and protocols are up and running and have been carefully tested before your children even arrive. So that's a positive, I think. We've looked at how we maintain a safe building, and we've been able to do that really effectively. And safety of our staff has been a priority because we know that children are less likely to suffer badly from the effects of COVID-19, but obviously staff we've got to really have a weather eye on and make sure that everybody remains healthy. I'm really pleased to report to you that we've had no reported cases of coronavirus amongst our staff or the pupils who've been attending school since the 23rd of March. We think it's very important that we maintain the children's groups or classes and that those classes aren't mixing. So, for example, in assembly, in September, we won't be running assemblies or anything where the whole school comes together. We'll be maintaining children in their classes. And we've also been educating children on site, but those children who haven't been able to come to school, they've also been very important to us. So we've been running a lot of online learning using Google Classroom, Google Meetings, and maintaining that contact with everyone. We've done that through running fortnightly phone calls for every family in the school. So every family have been receiving a phone call once a fortnight, really just checking in with them and making sure that their children are okay. And that also they're coping okay with educating their children at home, which we know is a challenge. And we've been supporting the most vulnerable in lots of different ways, including the purchasing of IT equipment, spending longer on the phone with those families, talking through the process of logging into Google Classroom, all sorts of additional things, bespoke things for those children. Now, the headlines for the school, I think, are really important for you to know, because as well as us being delighted to be welcoming your children are incredibly fortunate to be coming to this school. And I say that because it's the most oversubscribed school in Hertfordshire. We, last year with our 2019 results, we came 19th in the country out of 14,879 primary schools. So we know that we're doing really well. We're incredibly aspirational. So until we're in number one position, I won't be satisfied with what we're achieving. But over the years that I've been head here, we've consistently been in the top 10% of schools nationally. 80% of our children last year gained a place at a consortium secondary school. That means a secondary school, one of the secondary schools in Watford, that has an entrance exam. And during my time as head, we've had 2 boys who've won scholarships to Eton College. And we had a teacher who won a silver medal in the Pearson Teacher of the Year Awards, which is a national award. And in 2019, we were the winner of the Hertfordshire Primary Maths Challenge. Also in 2017, we reached the highest maintained school in the world position for the Primary Maths Challenge. Last year, we were very privileged to have a visit from the Right Honourable Nick Gibb, who is Minister of State for School Standards. And you can see a picture here of Nick Gibb standing next to me and our Member of Parliament at the time. And some of the children who spoke to the Minister for Education, they interviewed him, and one of the questions they asked him was what his vision for education was for the future. And he answered that his vision was that every school in the country would be like this one. I don't think he should have said that really, because I quote it far and wide now. But he did say it, and obviously it was a great compliment to the school, and we were really thrilled. Now, last year, Explore Learning had a Mathematicians Award, and our children, you can see the children on the slide in front of you, our children got through to the final, and the final was in the Natural History Museum in London, and I had the privilege to go up and support them during that time, and the parents also came. And it was a really, really tough challenge between primary schools and secondary schools were represented in the final. And what they were looking at was how well the group worked together and how resilient they were when the questions were really, really difficult. And I'm very, very pleased to tell you that our team won. So they won this national award. Show you the winning team holding the trophy. We're incredibly proud of these children. And what's interesting to say, I think, is that those children in year 3, I don't know whether with all the children we would have realised that they had the potential to win such a prestigious competition by the time they got to year 6. So you can really see the progress of these children, their resilience, their attitude to learning. They are an absolute credit to the school, and I'm incredibly proud of them. I was fortunate enough to go and speak at the House of Commons about science teaching in primary schools. It was an incredible privilege, and I felt very pleased to be able to express primary school education, science in primary school education, the importance of it, and to have that platform for what is relatively a small junior school. So that was really interesting, and I'm very committed to getting our practice out there, learning from other people's good practice, but also really promoting our own practice in a wider platform. Every term we have a visit from the local authority, from an advisor, a Hertfordshire improvement partner. And this quote was, I thought, worth sharing. So have a read of this. It came via a report that Rob Halls, who's our Hertfordshire improvement partner, wrote about the school, and hopefully it gives you some information about how the school is organised, how it's led and managed, and obviously leadership and management is absolutely pivotal to operating an outstanding school. The senior leadership team in this school is made up of 4 people. As I've said, I'm the head teacher. My deputy head teacher is Simon Watts. We also have Deborah Higginson, who's head of lower Key Stage 2. She's a Year 6 teacher. And Lucy Reynolds, who's also a Key Stage, a Year 6 teacher, but a head of upper Key Stage 2. So that's how the senior leadership team is made up. We have weekly senior leadership team meetings, and we absolutely devote those to talking about strategy. Now, our vision is really important, and Deborah and Lucy and I went on a training course years and years ago, right at the beginning of my headship here, and it was about looking at vision. And we put together our vision statement on that afternoon, and I'm really pleased with it because it's held true for all those years. The fact that we're a community of learners is really important because it really talks about the fact that we're all learners, that I'm learning at the same time as the children are learning, that all members of staff are learners as well. And that lifelong love of learning is so important to us. And it's been so important from the point of view of moving our children forward and making sure that we never settle, that we're always aspirational, that we're always looking for the next step of progress. Now, it's really difficult to capture what Nascot Junior School is like from the point of view of describing it to you. It's a really friendly school, and it has an incredibly calm atmosphere. And we think that that's really important because we want the children to be calm and comfortable, because we know that there's a lot of science out there to say that puts them in the best position to learn. So it makes sense to us that that teachers create a calm environment in the classroom so that the children can learn, can engage in their learning. If they're worried about feeling under pressure, they're not using half their brain to learn. They're concerned with how they're feeling. So it's really important to us that the environment is calm. We positively reinforce and model the highest standards of behaviour. And what I want to tell you is that our behaviour has been described by outside agencies as being more than exemplary. And that's really, really important. It allows us a lot of freedom with the children if we know that the children will follow instructions. This is a really important thing to remember. We value every single pupil in our school. and we are committed to ensuring that they all achieve their potential. It's not just about ensuring that the most able academically achieve their potential, it's every single child in the school. And it's a commitment to thinking that every child has that potential. And that's something that is absolutely at my core. I'm completely committed to. The importance of engaging and working in partnership with parents is something that I think cannot be overemphasised, because you know your children best. And therefore, what you can contribute is really valuable, and we always act on every comment that's made to us. We want to provide a really stimulating learning environment for your children, and even before it was something that the government and Ofsted were pushing, we thought it was important to have a broad and balanced curriculum. We've never put together a curriculum that only concentrates on core subjects. We've always thought that it was important to have a wide variety of subject matter. Along with the work that we do on academic learning and looking at children's progress, we've been working for the last 2 years on promoting positive mental health, because we think that's really important. You can't teach a child something if they're not in a positive place mentally and psychologically. And what we use with the children is something called Headspace. Some of you will be aware of that. You can see the icon. I know I've got it downloaded as an app on my phone. And Headspace is something that we do with the children every morning to make sure that they are ready to learn. So that's something that your children will be benefiting from in September. The other benefit that we didn't sort of realise would happen is that our teachers and teaching assistants are there for that Headspace session, which lasts about 5 minutes in the morning. And they're benefiting, they report that they're benefiting as well from this. Now, from a financial point of view, I've just put some headlines up there from the point of view of what we've invested over the last few years. And you can see that we've had a high amount of investment. Some of that, the £1 million invested in school building, has been partly from the local authority and partly from the school's budget. But that gives you an idea of the sort of levels of investment that we've been making over the last few years. So the school has had heavy investment. The bottom bullet point gives you an idea about what we're estimated to lose from our by the time we get to 2021. So it's estimated that we will have lost £276,000 from our school budget. So I think it's really important to know that that's what we're grappling with. And therefore, we just need you to work with us to ensure that we don't have unnecessary financial strain, I suppose, going forward, because these are really challenging times for schools. So you can see that projected going forward, there becomes a big difference between our expenditure, what we're going to be spending, and our income. And we've got to find really creative ways of getting over that. And obviously, the recent situation with COVID-19 has made it more difficult for us to make any money through lettings, for example. So just be aware of that we're under tremendous pressure financially. But that financial planning is at the core of what I do. I think it's really important. Without money, we can't do anything. We can't achieve anything. So how can you help the school financially? We're not asking you, as some schools do, for an annual financial subscription or contribution. But what we are asking you to do is please pay for any trips or events that we organise, and pay for it promptly, please, because it's a lot of our time is spent chasing for things like that, and it's really helpful if parents could just pay the contribution. If you're having difficulty with that, please communicate that to me, and we can have a meeting and find a way round that will work for you. Okay, so results. These are really important when you're thinking about your child and what you're likely to expect from the point of view of the outcomes for your child when they reach year 6. And at the moment, it probably feels, oh my goodness, going into year 3, I can't even imagine when they get through to year 6 what that will be like. But actually, the time goes really, really quickly. So just to give you an idea of what we've achieved in the past. So 2019 headline results. The national combined score for reading, writing and mathematics. So that's children achieving expected standard in reading, writing and mathematics, all 3 of them. The national rate was 65%. If you then look at what our achievement was here, so it's the same thing, children achieving the expected standard in Key Stage 2 SATs in all 3 subjects, we achieved 98.3% of children achieving that. So 65 national, 98.3 for our school. Now the national combined rate, again in all 3 subjects, for achieving the highest standard was 10%. And this same measure in this school was 45%. So I hope you can see from that we're really looking at very high levels of achievement. To just unpick that a little bit more, I'm going to try and move I don't think I can, my photo out of the way so that you can see. But for example, in mathematics, you can see that in the school, 100% of our children achieved the expected standard in mathematics, compared to a national level of 79% and a Hertfordshire level of 79.5%. In reading, for example, we achieved 98.3%, and that compares to a national level of 73%. So just have a little look at those. And the last section is the combined levels, and I've already been through those with you, so it doesn't matter so much that you can't see them. Now, this looks at the higher level. And again, for example, in mathematics, you can see that 77% of our children achieve the higher level in mathematics, in comparison to a national level of 24%. So you can see there is a huge difference between those results. Now, secondary school places, as I said to you, 80% of the children last year went to consortium schools, and those are a group of schools across Watford, the Watford area, that have entrance exams and place children based on the results of those exams. We had 17% of children going to community schools, which are the schools that don't have an entrance exam, and 3% of our children last year went into the independent sector. That's just to give you a little bit of an idea about outcomes. Now, in order to ensure that children are making progress and achieving to a high standard, the most important thing is to make sure they're at school. In other words, they're not missing their learning. And it's absolutely essential that we have high levels of attendance. We do monitor these rigorously. So no absence will be authorised unless we feel that it's a legitimate reason for that absence. and a legitimate reason may be a bereavement of a close family member, so attending a close family member's funeral maybe, or attending a hospital appointment that can't be reorganised out of school hours, something like that. Now, absence last year, authorised absence was 80%. That was agreed absence, and we only had 20%, which was unauthorised. And obviously, we want to cut that down even further. Just to go back, I didn't say to you, I don't think exactly what the attendance rate was, but it was 97.4%. In 2018 to 19, and I'm sharing that slightly out of date data because obviously we haven't got an accurate reading for this year because the children have been out of school since the 20th of March. Okay, so what can you do as a parent to ensure that your child makes progress? Well, first of all, our parents are fantastic in bringing their children into school before a routine medical appointment to be registered, and bringing them back after that appointment promptly. Now, you could say that that gives us a false reading because we are having children marked in who then go out for medical appointments, but actually it's about a culture where school attendance is prioritised over everything else other than illness. So the children realise the importance. We've definitely noticed a change in the children's attitude to being in school since we've insisted on this, and it's worked really, really well. If you do need to take your child out of school early, please try to do so after 1:15 when we've registered them. So in other words, that won't come up as an absence mark for your child. This is really, really important. Ensure that your child has enough sleep. Just to give you an idea, I remember when I went into year 7, so going into secondary school at 11 years old, and the secondary school was suggesting that we went to bed by 7:30. Now, I do think that's very, very early, and I don't think I did go to bed at 7:30, but you know, where children are going to bed at 9 o'clock, 9:30, that really is too late. They need to be having sleep. So make sure that you organise yourselves into a routine where your children can have enough sleep. And another thing is that they have enough play. And by play, I mean ideally outdoor play. So they're getting enough fresh air. We do work them really, really hard at school. So please make sure that you're giving them some downtime and they're getting time out of doors because it's really important for their development. Please may I put out a plea to limit time on electronic devices. We can really tell the children who spend a lot of time linked to an electronic device of one description or another. It's not good for them. There's a lot of research emerging now to say that it really isn't good. Their social interaction suffers. We tend to see some behaviours that, you know, then need further investigation because we're not quite sure what they are. And often that then comes back from an educational psychologist, for example, saying, well, it's simply that this child spent a lot of time on an electronic device. So please limit that and you will reap the rewards from that. Please don't take your child out of school for a holiday during term time. Because we're so fortunate, aren't we? We have 13 weeks per year of holiday, plus bank holidays. So please make sure that you make the best use of those holiday times and you take your child on holiday then rather than in term time. And by doing that, you support the work that the school is doing. Homework or home learning. We set the following home learning for the children and we purposely do not make this too prescribed. So the most important thing is that the children are doing 30 minutes of reading per day, and that can take many forms. It could be that you're reading to your child. It could be that your child is reading to a sibling, a younger sibling. It could be that the child is listening to an audiobook. It could be that the child is reading the BBC Sport pages. We're not going to be too prescriptive about it, but we do want your child to be doing 30 minutes of reading per day, 6 days a week. And it's important that they're reading a wide range of materials, and particularly emphasising the classics. So I'm thinking of something like The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe, for example, or a piece of Dickens, or something that is a classic piece of literature. And the reason that we're saying that is because when your children come to entrance exams for secondary school, for example, or SATs at the end of Key Stage 2, the children that have read widely will do the best. We know that we've got evidence of that. Now, spelling is taught as part of the English curriculum. It's taught by the teacher, and there are statutory spelling lists that are produced, and these are available on the school's website. So we do want you to look with your children at the spelling foci, which can be found on next week's learning section of the website. So the teacher puts that up weekly, and it's worth checking in and seeing which spellings are being taught and then supporting your child's learning at school. Timetables should be practiced daily, and I can't really overemphasize how important they are for accessing the mathematics curriculum. So please make sure your children know their timetables. As they get older, it becomes much more difficult for them to learn them, and then it's, there's a significant weakness for them as they go into secondary school if they don't thoroughly know their times tables. So please encourage your children to practice those. We use MathsWhiz with the children, and that can be accessed. We ask for a subscription now. It's not very expensive at all, but you can subscribe to MathsWhiz, and that means that your children can do maths activities at home. And then we have class investigations, which are more sort of topic based, and your children can undertake, and they're quite enthusiastic to do that. Now, if you were to have a concern about your child, which sometimes comes up, first of all, every morning on the gate, Mr. Watts and I are there to answer any sort of minor queries. But we're really keen to give you time if you want to talk about something that is, necessarily takes a bit longer. So the first thing to do is to contact the school office and to book an appointment with your child's class teacher. And the parental flow chart, which I'm sharing with you at the moment, is in the behaviour policy. And I suggest that you look at it in a bit of detail, because basically what we're saying is that sometimes queries or concerns can be quite complex. So please allow us time to deal with your concern or query, because it might not be straightforward. It might need a bit of investigation. So always your first port of call is to go to the class teacher. It may be that as the concern is investigated, it does become clear that it's quite a complex concern. And then that concern may be passed to me, and I may have a meeting with you or a telephone call with you. And in very, very rare situations, it might be such a complex concern or query that we need to involve external agencies. So basically, the thing to remember is that for a stage 1 or a stage 2 concern, you need to go to the class teacher first of all. So I've talked about that a little bit. It's really important, I will reiterate, that you book an appointment with your child's class teacher. Normally, the class teacher will see you sometime within that week. and normally the next day after you've asked for that appointment. But that's what we try and do, to meet with you within a week. And I think I've covered all of the other things in that slide. The email is admin@nascotwoodjm.hearts.sch.uk, and that's the usual way to contact the school. Now, what can you expect from us as a school and as a staff? We absolutely pride ourselves on always behaving in a professional manner, so you can always expect to be treated with respect and courtesy. We will maintain confidentiality, and we will never discuss your child with anyone else. Now, the flip side of that is we will never discuss anybody else's child with you. And I think that as a parent, I would take heart from that, because I know then that your child's confidentiality will be maintained. So normally, if we're talking about maybe an issue that your child has with another child, there's a social problem maybe between two children, we normally refer to that child as the other child. And we don't go into details about any extenuating circumstances that child might have. But obviously in the background, we work and we reach a conclusion and we report back to you in detail. And parents are always happy really with what we go back with. So I hope that you will be similarly happy with the depth that we go into and our commitment to make things better when things go wrong. We often respond to initial concerns within 24 hours, but I think it's important that you're aware that we give ourselves 3 to 5 working days after your concern has been raised or received. Now, that's not just because we put it on the back burner, it's because there are lots of other things that are going on and we have to prioritise. And it also might mean that I need to have a conversation, for example, with the class teacher, maybe the class teacher from the year before, which in your case would be an infant school class teacher, and it takes some time to do that. So normally what I do is send a holding email to say, thank you, I've received your email, I will investigate it further, and I intend to come back to you by Friday, let's say. So I will always talk to you about it, but I won't necessarily have the answer immediately. And I suppose the other thing to say is that sometimes where you're dealing with human beings, sometimes the query, which seems straightforward, can be actually quite complex. And what we try and do is investigate it in depth so that we don't have a recurring problem. So that's why sometimes we ask you to work with us and bear with us, because it will take some time to sort out. We supply you with information about your child's progress at the autumn term parents consultation evening, and also in the spring term annual reports. Now that will be a change for you, in that we give out the children's annual report halfway through the year. The reason that we do that is it gives you a chance to come back to us with any queries and questions and to talk to your child's current class teacher. We found that when we were sending them out at the end of the summer term, parents then didn't know quite what to do because there was a 6-week gap. And when they came back, they didn't know whether to go to the new class teacher or the old class teacher who was now had a new class. So this has worked really well for us over the last few years, and we hope that you'll find it positive too. If you have concerns, and this is important, about your child's progress at any other time of the year, we will provide you with the most up-to-date information. So if you wish to, you can book an appointment to see your child's class teacher or to come and see me, and we'll happily talk through your child's progress. I had a parent who did that every term when her child was in year 3, and then in year 4 I didn't see her, and just in passing I saw her one morning and she said, "Oh, I bet you're surprised, Mrs. Singh, that I haven't come to see you, but I feel confident now. Now that we've had all those meetings, I feel confident, and I'm happy to move forward without those additional meetings. So we're always available to do that if you wish to take us up on that. And the other important thing is to say that we will contact you if we have any concerns about your child, and we'll identify ways that we can support them with whatever we're noticing. I'm just going to have a glass of water. There we are. Right. So what will we provide for the children? We'll provide a happy and nurturing environment. The children love coming to school. They report to us at the moment that they're really sad not to be here. So they've got a high level of engagement in their education, and that's something I feel very passionate about. We'll provide them with a broad and balanced curriculum. We've got a long history of doing that, and we didn't narrow the curriculum when other schools were doing so. Very importantly, we provide a community where the children are listened to and their opinions are respected. And I believe, and I communicate with the children very often, that I have got 240 potential leaders in my school, and I want to give them an opportunity to develop those leadership skills. So for that reason, I need to listen to their opinions, and I need to give them an opportunity to express those opinions. So that's really important to me. I regularly get groups of children in to talk to me about what their opinions are regarding how the schools run, how the school operates, and I often, following those meetings, implement their ideas. It is absolutely of pivotal importance to me that the school is inclusive, and I think it's so important that we are a diverse school. So the diversity is valued very highly by me and by all the staff. I was offered the opportunity to go and be a head teacher in a very large school, and one of the things that made my heart sink when I looked at all the information about the school before I went for interview, was that it wasn't diverse. And actually, I decided that I didn't want to apply for that position because of that. So the diversity is something that I think is absolutely enriching and one of the most important things about our school. We have an incredibly positive learning environment, with an emphasis on a high challenge, and that is high challenge for children whatever their academic ability. And by putting in that high level of challenge, we've seen the results go up, but we've also seen children understanding the purpose of their education, i.e. they're getting education which is free at source. It's being paid for by taxpayers. Therefore, it's really important that they are engaging in that process and that they understand the value of it, and the value from the point of view of what they're going to go on and do at higher education and what their professions they'll go into in the future. So that's really important to me. We have incredibly high expectations and aspirations for the future of all the children. And we provide a model of the highest possible behaviour, and the children are really encouraged to behave in this way, and they all do. I'm really proud of them all. The only way that you can achieve high results, and you will know this from your experiences in work, is about having an environment of positive praise and encouragement. And I can honestly say that even if I need to speak to children about behaviour when things have gone wrong, I always start with a positive. I always start with encouraging them. In that way, they then key in, they're more interested in engaging, even in a process where we're actually learning from a mistake made. So what do we expect from you? Well, we get this from our parents. They are courteous, calm and measured at all times. And that's really important, because I do understand as a parent that you feel incredibly invested in your own children. And of course you feel naturally defensive if something's gone wrong. But our parents are fantastic, and they're able to communicate their anxieties or concerns or whatever it happens to be in a courteous, calm and measured way. And that's really important. It allows us then to sort out the question or query much quicker. Please ensure that your children complete their home learning each week. Sometimes where children are not completing that, it is because parents are very busy and they haven't sort of given their children a bit of time and support for those tasks that they're undertaking. So please make sure that you do that. We are absolutely exacting about saying that members of staff and or the school in general should not be discussed in a disparaging way on social media sites, including class WhatsApp groups. And we do look at that. We dip in every so often, and if we feel that there's an issue with that, we will address it. Having said that, parents are on the whole absolutely fantastic. So we just want to maintain those standards because it's really, really important. Please can I ask you and make a plea that you take the time to read communication from the school. Sometimes we get questions from parents and they sort of say, oh, actually, I didn't get round to reading that newsletter or letter or whatever it happens to be or report. The answers are often in that report. So please take the time to read everything that comes from the school, and please be aware that there is a big change between the infant school and the junior school in that predominantly we communicate via the school's website. So everything is communicated electronically. We do not produce hard copy letters. That's for two reasons. One is environmental, and the second reason is about getting those children ready and getting you ready, I suppose, for the secondary school experience, which will be completely electronic. Okay. Parents will be expected to financially contribute to school trips, as I said earlier, and you know the reasons for that. We will cancel trips if we don't get enough parents contributing, so just be aware of that. And also we ask that we've got lovely, lovely comments from parents, but sometimes they come in email form to me or to the office or to the class teacher, and we're really thrilled with those comments. But we ask that you contribute annually to Parent View, which is the Ofsted parent questionnaire, and it helps the school no end to have positive comments from parents. So if you could do that, we'd be really, really grateful. I think I've talked through a lot of this already, and particularly emphasised that sometimes solutions aren't easy to find at a first attempt, so just bear with us. Please ensure it is your responsibility to ensure that your child attends school every day and arrives promptly. At the moment, we're operating using the Langley Road gate, and because of its distance from the school, we are not going to be able to leave the gates open for latecomers. So we will be closing the gate at 10 to 9 very promptly. So please make sure that your child is in school on time. And we do start learning immediately. So even if they're in 2 minutes, 3 minutes late, they've already missed some input from the teacher. So please make sure that you plan properly and that they're in on time. You must ensure that your child wears the correct school uniform, and we are very strict about that. We want that adhered to. Of course, we make reasonable adjustments if there's a particular reason. For example, say your child has got a broken leg, we won't expect them to be wearing the same footwear as we would usually. So just speak to us and we will understand that if it's a legitimate reason. Otherwise, we will be quite strict about it. Parents report that they really like the fact that there's a formal school uniform because when their children have gone off and experienced other schools in competitions, for example, they feel that they're on a very equal footing with children from the independent sector. It's very, very important that parents must not admonish children on the school site who are not their own, i.e. you must not get involved in correcting a child's behaviour. You need to go to the class teacher immediately if you're concerned about another child's behaviour. This is an essential reading list for parents, and I suppose the most essential documents are here. The behaviour policy, please make sure that you are really familiar with the behaviour policy and that you familiarise your child with it. The homeschool agreement is a statutory document that has to be signed, and please make sure that that is signed before the beginning of term. You can send that in via the school post box, or you can post it to the school, or you can send all the documents that need returning in with your child at the beginning of the school year. Now, on the school website, there is a section for new parents. It's on the front page saying new to year 3 induction, and a whole list of essential forms is on the website. You can just click onto it. And we're asking you to return some of those. It's clearly marked the ones you need to return, and send them into school in one of the 3 ways that I've outlined. So either the school post box, which is available to you in term time during school hours, or send them in the post through to the school, or send them in strictly as a last time when you can do that on the first day of the school term, which is on a Thursday, and I believe it's the 3rd of September. And as I said, make sure that you look at the school website because all the information is on there. So that's the behaviour policy. As I said, that's a real must read. So please do that. Make sure you understand how that operates, because it will impact on your child in some form or another. So make sure you're really familiar with that document. What I usually do, I haven't been doing for a while because of the present situation, is I write a report for parents, and that comes out electronically. It's been specially designed so that you can view it on your smartphone, and on the front it has an outline of the information the information that's inside. So in other words, that's just abbreviated on the front, so it's put together as an at-a-glance document really for you, because I know that parents are really, really busy. So this was my response to parents not having very much time. So you will get one of these reports in the autumn term, and it gives you some generic information about the school, which parents have reported as being very useful. This is what the school website looks like. And where it says messages to parents, that's where the message is to you at the moment, where you can access all the forms that need to be read and returned to school for the autumn term. What do we expect from the children? Well, really, the only thing we expect from them is that they do their best. That's really, really important to us. But we will teach them to behave with respect and fairness to all, in other words, all the children, all the staff, and to be kind and helpful. Now, it's really important that that you support us with the idea that they tell the truth. And we support the children in telling the truth by by taking that into consideration, I suppose. If they tell us the truth immediately, and it's about a behaviour choice that they made that was the wrong behaviour choice, we are very careful not to sanction them heavily, because we appreciate that they have told the truth and it hasn't taken an awful lot of unravelling from the point of view of working out exactly what happened. So please encourage them to do that, and encourage them to be confident to do that. We want them to let their class teacher or teaching assistant know if they have any worries or concerns, and that's really important that they do that. They need to take any letters home that they're given. As I said, that will be very few and far between because we don't give out paper copies on the whole. They need to respect their environment and keep the school clean and tidy, and respect all the equipment that they're given, and follow safety procedures. That's the most important thing, because we have to be confident that we can get them out of the school building if we need to in an emergency. Now, your children will go through into year 3. I've realised, I'm sorry that the date is wrong there. It should be 2020 to 21, of course. And they will go into either Willow or Holly class. The 2 class teachers are Miss Derbyshire and Mrs. King. Both class teachers are experienced and of the highest quality. So all the children will have fantastic experience. We've got a very experienced team in year 3. The classes, as usual, will be mixed by the infant school, who have, of course, more knowledge of the children, and they'll be based on a balance of girls and boys, special educational needs and disabilities across the year, and English as an additional language. So the classes will be mixed. That has always been incredibly effective for the children, and it gives them the opportunity to have a fresh class, a fresh approach, and the children can still meet up with all their friends on the playground. So, you know, it's not something to be concerned about. It's something that prepares them really well for what's going to happen at secondary school, and we've noticed a big boost to their learning through doing that. So I think that's going to work really well. You will receive information about your child's class allocation by email before the end of term. And what we're trying to do is work very closely with the infant school to enable us to have that information before the children come in for their transition. But obviously there's a lot that the infant school have got to undertake, so we're hoping that will happen. But please bear with us, you will know by the end of this academic year. Now, our curriculum, as I've said, is about a broad and balanced curriculum, but it's not just the curriculum, which I've highlighted here as the national curriculum. It's about all the enhancement activities that we provide for the children, and it's also about that bespoke provision, which your child will benefit from. Sometimes bespoke provision is about accessing learning for your child, and sometimes it's about just doing something because we know it's a special interest for that particular child. So we very much want to make that provision right for all the children. And as your children go through the school, we obviously get to know them better and better, and it enables us to do that more effectively. Here you can see the swimming pool, and some of your children will be familiar with this anyway, but it's a fantastic resource that we have as a school, and we've invested really heavily in it. I think I'm right in saying that last year 100% of our children in year 6 could swim. So it's fantastic from the point of safety. I don't know whether you know, but the swimming pool initially was dug by parents of the school in the early 1970s, and it was following the sad death of a child by drowning, and the parents felt it was really, really important that children could learn to swim, and we prevented that happening again. And I think that holds true. It is a difficult thing to manage, and when I became head here, I did think, oh, it would be quite helpful to fill it in, but actually then I watched the children swimming and I realised what a fantastic resource it was, and I've become a big fan of it, and I want to continue using it if we possibly can. This is the woodland, and at the moment this slide shows the Toad School, and it's just, I'm showing you it as a fantastic resource that the school has. and also the fact that we're committed to the idea of sometimes doing, or as often as possible, doing outdoor learning. And we don't just do outdoor learning for subjects that sort of lend themselves easily, like science. We do outdoor English learning and outdoor maths learning as well. And we found that really beneficial for both the boys and the girls. And here are some of the other activities that we've carried out with the children over the last few years. And I hope you can see from that there's quite a diverse selection of activities. The bottom one that you can't see so well is the Royal Albert Hall, where we regularly go for the school's singing gala, and that's a fantastic occasion for the children. In fact, it was the last thing we did with the children before lockdown. This is one of the school productions. It's the Year 5 production of Shakespeare's The Tempest. And the children just absolutely amaze me every time I watch them performing Shakespeare. It's very complex language, isn't it? And they just do it with such aplomb. It's amazing. We took the children on a couple of occasions to the Royal Opera House in London to see well, on this occasion, Madame Butterfly. It wasn't an abridged version, it was the version that the paying public see, and the children absolutely loved it. And at the end, the singers were really excited because when they went on for their curtain calls, the sort of, the baddie in the opera was booed as if it was in the pantomime. And I think the singers were really, really excited by the engagement of the children. It remains an absolute highlight for me, taking the children to that. It was fantastic. We have a school choir and a school orchestra, and the bottom right photo is a joint concert that we do in the Watford School of Music. It's a fantastic space. They allow us to use the space, and we do a joint orchestral concert every year with Casbury Junior School, and it is truly magnificent. I really enjoy it, and it's a fantastic way of linking to high achieving schools in the area. And then the left-hand picture, I didn't realise I put that in again, is the Royal Albert Hall. Behaviour at this school is described as outstanding. In fact, it's described as more than outstanding. We set incredibly high standards of behaviour, and the children respond with predominantly exemplary behaviour. These high standards of behaviour enable us to give the children opportunities and a certain amount of freedom. And if I go back to the earlier slide where we took children up, those 4 children up to the Natural History Museum for their final for the mathematics competition, the parents and the teachers who were there to support the children, they were having lunch before the competition, and the children really wanted to go and explore the museum. And so I took them off on my own, and it was just so lovely because the children's behaviour was amazing, and I really needed to do nothing. I just sort of followed them round. And that's what it's like with the children. We don't have to really be very precise about our instructions because the children know how to behave, so it's wonderful. And we have, over the last 2 or 3 years, we've operated a restorative approach to behaviour management, which is called Hertfordshire Steps. And this is very much about when things go wrong. It's about children having time with me or with Mr. Watts over sometimes weeks and months actually, and discussing behaviour choices, looking at what's gone wrong and how to rectify that behaviour. It's a very time-consuming way of doing things, but actually it's really worth it because what we find is that children then don't tend to make the same mistake over and over again. So it's worked incredibly well, and it's made us really look at our behaviour management. And that has just been a very positive experience. Now, I'm much more interested in rewards for good behaviour and etc. than sanctions. So we do an awful lot of things to reward the children or just give them a boost really. And those things are listed there. The children, for example, get incredibly excited if they get a head teacher's gold award. It is in fact a sticker, but they are, you would have thought you were sort of giving them the equivalent of an OBE. They're so excited to be brought to me, show them me their work, for example, and then, you know, get a Gold Head Teachers Award. So they find that really exciting. I also do Golden Tea Party with the children. Those are the children who are stars of the week each week, and they come and have tea with me and we have a chat. And we normally chat about things that are nothing to do with school, and it's really fun and the children love it, even though it's, you know, they get a biscuit and they talk about what's going on at home or what they've been doing recently, and they absolutely love it. And it's a real joy to me. Now the sanctions are laid out in the behaviour policy, and so you can read those at your leisure. What I did want to make you aware of is I am committed to all the children in the school, and I don't think that permanent exclusion is an option for us. So just to make you aware that that's not something I'm going to be considering. I, in very, very rare cases, might consider having a fixed term exclusion for a day or a couple of days. But really, I think that the children are my responsibility, and therefore there's not an option. If they're not at school, what are we going to do? You know, what are their life chances likely to be? So it's really important that you know that I'm committed to the children and to sorting out any problems that we have, rather than resorting to something that is quite harsh, really. So please have a look at the behaviour policy, look at the sanctions, and understand that those sanctions within the context that we get children that are, you know, really well behaved on the whole. Now, if your child should have an accident at school, those accidents tend to be very minor. They tend to have a minor injury, like, for example, falling over and cutting their knee. If the injury is considered to be very minor, like that, a scratch or something, you will not be notified of that accident, but you'll be aware when your child comes home because maybe they have a plaster on their knee. If your child, however, receives a bump to the head, we do immediately inform you of that. And you will also receive a bump note. So you'll get a telephone call, you'll get a bump note, and your child will be given a red sticker. So you are aware at the end of the day that that's what's happened. If we're concerned and we think that that child needs to be seen by a doctor or a medical professional, we will tell you. Now, at the bottom, I've said any first aid that we give your child is a temporary solution. Please be aware that we are not medically trained. We're not doctors. We can't carry out minor operations. We're educational professionals. So you need to assess your child at the end of the school day. And for example, if your child has a plaster on their knee and they've fallen over, there's a possibility there could be some gravel still in their knee and the wound needs to be cleaned. So please make sure that you deal with that when your child gets home, and if you have concerns, that you take them to a pharmacist or even possibly a nurse or a GP. In case of an emergency, we will call an ambulance, and I tend to err on the side of caution and call an ambulance if I'm in doubt at all, because, you know, I'm in loco parentis, and I take that responsibility really, really seriously. So if I'm unsure, I will call an ambulance, and we will then call you. So the first people we'll call is 999, the emergency services, and then we will immediately call you after that when we finish speaking to the emergency services. If you cannot get to the school, we will send a member of staff in the ambulance. The only proviso to that is that at the moment we are not allowed to do that because of the COVID-19 situation. So obviously we're trying to ensure that we can deal with issues on site, or maybe get you to take your child to a doctor. it would only be in the most serious situation that we would call an ambulance. Okay. Right, a little bit about safeguarding. Now, safeguarding is the most important responsibility that we have in school, and safeguarding just means keeping your children safe. If we're concerned about information that we receive which suggests that a child is being neglected or experiencing physical, emotional or sexual harm, we will report this to Children's Services. On the whole, I will contact you before I call Children's Services, but I won't always, depending on the nature of what's happening. But if you can bear in mind, I know that this can be frightening, but if you can bear in mind that I have a duty of care to do that, parents, even in the most difficult circumstances, have been really positive about the outcomes of that referral. Every school in the country has to have a designated senior person for safeguarding, and that in this case is me, the head teacher. And the deputy designated senior person is the deputy head teacher, Mr. Watts. So it's quite straightforward, and it's really important that you're aware of that and our duties of care. So if the class teacher is worried about a child, they will come and report that to us, and we will then take prompt action, which might be just ringing you and making you aware of our concerns, or reporting to Children's Services. Now, e-safety is incredibly important at the moment because, as we know, the digital world is getting more and more complex and more difficult to keep up to date with, really. So it's an important part of child protection. E-safety is led and managed by Mr. Watts, who's the deputy head and also deputy DSP, and he regularly runs workshops with parents to keep you informed of potential risks for your children and how to monitor these. We also regularly call parents if we know that there's been an issue online and it's been reported to us, and we work with you then to see whether we can find solutions. I think the overarching most important thing is that we are monitoring your children while they're in school. There are all sorts of firewalls in place to make sure that children aren't accessing inappropriate material, but please can you do the same at home. Now, bullying is really important to address because any school that says that bullying doesn't happen is deluded, really, because bullying happens in any environment where there are groups of people. There's the potential for bullying. What we do find is we're not getting many cases. I would say probably over the last 7 years, I've maybe had 3 cases of actual bullying. And the reason why this isn't occurring more often is because we try and address an issue between children much more quickly, and therefore it doesn't become repetitive, willful or persistent. Bullying is identified and defined as being intentionally harmful, carried out by an individual or a group, and based on an imbalance of power, leaving the person who's bullied feeling defenceless. And I have to say that having a daughter who was very badly bullied during primary school, I take this incredibly seriously. And it's one of the things that I spend an awful lot of time trying to mitigate, trying to avoid happening, because if a child is being bullied, apart from having long-term effects on their life, they also are not in a position where they can learn because they're so anxious about what might happen next. So it's a really important thing for me to address. I talk to you really about that because it can happen in any environment. It happens with children, with adults. So it's also really important to us that we're in an environment as adults, as members of staff, where bullying would not be tolerated. It is, however, important that we don't confuse one-off incidents which are unkind, and maybe really, very unkind, with bullying. Because if something has happened once, it's not something that's habitual. It needs to be reported and we need to deal with it, but it's not under the banner of bullying at that point. It's important that, as well as protecting children from bullying, we also build their resilience alongside that for the future, because that's also really an important part of making sure that those children are not victims of bullying going forward, isn't it? Right, and I think this just looks at some of the ways that we address this issue. I must say, actually, the restorative approach to behaviour management has been really pivotal in moving us forward so far with this aspect of bullying as well. So bullying happens even more rarely than it did probably when I was first head here. School uniform. Now, I've got three lovely children modelling this for you. You can see that they are expected to wear a school tie and a proper shirt. They can't wear a polo shirt, a white polo shirt. It must be a proper stiff collar shirt. These shirts are available from supermarkets for a really small price, normally two in a packet for £5, something like that. And the school jumper and the tie, I will make you aware of where you can purchase that, I think, on the next slide. So it's really important for us that your child is at school in full school uniform every day. You can get a clip-on tie or a self-tie tie, depending on what your child and what you would prefer. So there are two options. But it is really important that the children look like this, and somehow that maintains the high standards of behaviour and also the high expectation and aspiration that we have in the school. Here we are, ordering school uniform. Now, the school uniform was initially available from two firms, but having spoken to parents, they reported that the Beat school uniform was of better quality, and also it's a local company, so you can actually go into the shop and you can try school uniform on for your children, or you can order it online, and probably at the moment that's how they're operating. So it's Beat school uniform, which is the bottom address. The children need a school tie. I would get probably a couple. School jumpers, which are that lovely blue colour, and they have the logo embossed on them. And they also provide storm jackets, which are in the school colours as well. And most importantly, printed name labels. It's really important that you don't just write in a marker pen on your child's school uniform, because they do wash off. Even the ones that say they do not, they wash off, and then we can't put together lost school uniform with the child. I do want to just say, obviously we try and return jumpers, school ties, etc. to your children, but that isn't our job. It is the responsibility of your child to keep their own uniform. So please put those printed labels on, either sew them in or iron them in, because it just enables us to link up the uniform with the child and imagine the volume that we're dealing with. So it is important that you do that, please. At the moment, please don't worry about the sports tops in house colours, because we haven't been able to allocate the houses at the moment due to all the other things that we've been dealing with. So we'll hope to get that out to you in September, but at the moment a white t-shirt will do. I'm happy with you just providing a white t-shirt. Please consider if your child might be eligible for free school meals. If you think you meet the criteria, i.e. you might be on income support, or income-based job seekers allowance, something like that, please try and apply. We can support you in that application if you would like support. Because if you manage to get free school meal allocation for your child, it means that we can access some wider funding, which might be beneficial in the future, and certainly will benefit your child. So it's in your interest. If you do think you qualify, please tell us and please apply. Thank you very much for listening. I'm aware that there's a lot of information in that presentation. And if you would like to ask any questions, normally what I do is then open this up for, half an hour, 3/4 an hour of questioning. Obviously, we can't do that at the moment. So I'm asking you to email your questions to help@nascotwoodjm.hearts.sch.uk. Please try to look carefully at the presentation in case I've answered those questions already. And also look carefully at the forms that we've sent out to you to see whether the questions are answered in there. But if you feel that there's something we've forgotten, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we have. Please email us those questions and we'll do our best to get back to you before the end of the school year. We're really looking forward to meeting you. I'm sorry that this has had to be a remote session, but I've enjoyed speaking to you. I hope you've enjoyed the presentation. I hope it's been informative. And I very much look forward to welcoming your children for the induction mornings and afternoons at the end of this term, and also properly from September.